Good afternoon, I'm James Ezimoha and you're watching AnewZ. Let's see your headlines. U.S. federal court blocks U.S. President Donald Trump from imposing sweeping global tariffs. Billionaire Elon Musk is stepping down from his role in the Trump administration, the White House confirms. South Korea begins early voting ahead of presidential election. A United States trade court has blocked President Donald Trump's plan to impose new tariffs. The ruling says the president went beyond his legal authority by targeting countries that sell more to the U.S. than they buy. The decision could have major implications for America's trade policy and global markets.
A U.S. trade court delivered a major blow to President Donald Trump's tariff policies on Wednesday, ruling that he exceeded his legal authority by imposing blanket duties on imports from countries with trade surpluses with the United States. In a sweeping decision, the Court of International Trade said the Constitution grants Congress, not the President, the exclusive power to regulate international commerce. While the president may invoke emergency powers to protect the economy, the judges concluded Trump's actions fell outside the bounds of the law. The court issued a permanent injunction invalidating all of Trump's tariff orders issued since January under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. The panel clarified that their ruling wasn't about the wisdom or effectiveness of the tariffs, but simply that the law does not permit such broad action. The Trump administration promptly filed an appeal and questioned the court's authority. The judges also ordered the administration to issue new directives in line with the injunction within 10 days. Reactions on Capitol Hill were starkly divided. Republican Representative Riley Moore of West Virginia called the decision outrageous and urged passage of his U.S. Reciprocal Trade Act. In contrast, Democratic Representative Mark Warner of Virginia praised the ruling, saying it shielded American families and businesses from harmful economic policy. Financial markets responded positively. The US dollar surged, particularly against the euro, yen and Swiss franc, while Wall Street futures and Asian stocks posted gains. Notably, the court did not weigh in on tariffs tied to specific industries like those on steel or automobiles, which fall under different statutes. The decision can still be appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals and ultimately the Supreme Court.
The Department of Commerce in the United States has sent letters to dozens of companies informing them that a license will now be required to export products to the Chinese market. The new export restrictions target strategic goods, particularly chip design software and aviation technologies.
The U.S. administration has introduced new rules to limit the export of strategic products to China, according to Reuters. The Department of Commerce has sent letters to dozens of companies, informing them that a special license will be required to ship products to the Chinese market. The restrictions cover electronic design automation software for semiconductors, chemicals, butane and ethane gases, industrial machinery, and aviation technologies. Companies such as Cadence, Synopsys, and Siemens EDA are directly affected by these measures. Synopsys earns 16% of its revenue, and Cadence 12% from the Chinese market. Synopsys CEO stated that the company has not yet received any official notification. Following the news, shares of both companies dropped significantly, but Synopsys' unchanged revenue forecast helped their stocks partially recover. Experts view this move as an escalation in the technological competition between the US and China. The White House has not yet commented on the matter.
Elon Musk is stepping away from his high-profile role in the Trump administration after leading a bold push to shrink the federal government budget. His departure follows sharp criticisms of the president's latest budget plan.
Billionaire Elon Musk is stepping down from his role in the Trump administration, ending a 130-day stint as a special government employee tasked with cutting federal waste. The White House confirmed on Wednesday night that the offboarding process had begun. Musk was appointed to lead the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. where he spearheaded an aggressive campaign to reduce bureaucracy and downsize federal agencies. During his tenure, thousands of government jobs were eliminated, though his broader goal of achieving sweeping, long-term savings remained unfulfilled. The Tesla CEO announced his departure on his social media platform X, where he thanked President Donald Trump for the opportunity. His exit had been expected, as his temporary assignment was set to expire by the end of May. However, the timing drew attention, coming just a day after Musk publicly criticized Trump's new budget proposal, expressing disappointment over its increased military spending and multi-trillion-dollar tax cuts. While his tenure was brief and controversial, Musk's role sparked ongoing debates about private sector influence in federal governance and the future of government reform efforts.
U.S. President Donald Trump has called for Harvard University to limit its intake of foreign students to 15%, criticizing the institution for what he described as disrespect towards the country. Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office on Wednesday, Trump said too many international students were taking sports that should go to Americans. Harvard stated in the court documents that international students make up about 25% of its full-time student body. Meantime, the university has rejected government requests for foreign students to conduct records and audits on viewpoint diversity. Tensions are rising between Harvard University and the Trump administration. At the center of the dispute over international students, there are accusations of anti-Semitism and a controversial push to reshape U.S. higher education. As the legal battle unfolds, analysts warn the consequences could reshape academic freedom and America's global academic standing.
In a legal twist, a U.S. judge has temporarily halted the Trump administration's effort to block Harvard University from enrolling foreign students, a policy that critics say is politically motivated and unprecedented. The administration argues the move is a response to anti-Semitism on campus, but Harvard calls it retaliation and part of a wider campaign by the Trump White House to pressure institutions it views as politically hostile.
How is this going to impact Harvard? Immensely. Almost a quarter, 25% of their enrollment is international students. And Secretary Noem pointed out that Harvard is very wealthy and that they will be fine without this tuition to, as she put it, pad their endowment. So I just want to make clear that tuition dollars don't go into endowments. Tuition money is used for things like student aid, student programs, payroll, paying staff, paying faculty. And so the loss of tuition is not going to hurt Harvard's endowment. It's going to hurt their ability to take care of the students, faculty, and staff that they have.
The policy was announced in a letter from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, a move experts say is unusual, as visa matters for universities typically fall under education or immigration authorities. Meanwhile, President Trump has doubled down on his stance, suggesting foreign students who protest U.S. policy shouldn't be allowed in.
Why are they there? And then you see those same people picketing and screaming at the United States and screaming at, they're anti-Semitic or they're something. We don't want troublemakers here.
Trump and his allies argue elite universities are ideological battlegrounds. Analysts warn the broader academic community may also be in the administration's crosshairs.
But perhaps this was not necessarily just about Harvard. This was a message to all of higher education that you have to come into line with the thinking of what this administration thinks higher education.
The potential impact stretches far beyond Harvard. With over 1.2 million international students in the US, many of whom pay full tuition, experts warn that policy shifts could strain university budgets and affect research funding nationwide. The administration is also taking steps to revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status and freeze billions in federal research funding.
Another action that the administration is trying to take against Harvard is to revoke their tax-exempt status, which, again, based on their very large endowment, would cause Harvard to then owe a tremendous amount of money in taxes.
President Trump has described tax-exempt status as a privilege, not a right. Meanwhile, some academic experts express concern over proposed campus surveys, drawing comparisons to past periods of political scrutiny in American history.
I think the number is about $2.75 billion that they have immediately taken from Harvard. You know, faculty at Harvard are very concerned, talking about how the revocation of that amount of funds, what that's going to do is essentially shut down some of their labs. We've talked about how universities in America are vital for all kinds of research, but particularly scientific research. And so revoking those funds without a very clear reason or without a very clear process is incredibly harmful to Harvard.
The court's decision offers temporary relief for Harvard, but broader legal and policy questions remain unresolved.
Activists and community leaders gathered in Paris this week to confront the growing wave of Islamophobia in France.
A meeting held in Paris brought together activists, educators and religious figures to address what they say is an alarming rise in Islamophobia across France. Organised by the Collective Against Islamophobia, the event focused on discrimination faced by Muslim communities in areas such as sports, education and public services. Speakers highlighted how restrictive policies, including bans on religious attire in sports, are pushing Muslim women and girls out of participation, even at amateur levels. They also pointed to increasing hostility on social media and in schools, where efforts to foster inclusion have often been met with backlash. One youth association reported being targeted online after hosting an interfaith dinner during Ramadan, an event that was intended to promote dialogue and coexistence. The meeting followed last month's fatal stabbing of a young Muslim man at a mosque in southern France, an attack described as religiously motivated, which sparked protests and vigils in cities including Paris, Lyon and Marseille. Demonstrators have since called for stronger legal protections, accountability for hate crimes, and an end to political narratives they believe fuel anti-Muslim sentiment.
South Korea has begun a two-day early voting period ahead of the snap presidential election scheduled for the 3rd of June next week. The vote was called after President Yoon Suk-yeol was removed from office following his brief imposition of martial law. As early as 10 a.m., 2.3 million eligible voters had cast their ballot, according to the National Election Commission data, setting a new early turnout voting record compared to 2022. After more than 3 decades at the top, Japan is no longer the world's biggest creditor. Germany has now claimed that title, ending a 34-year reign. Here's what we know about the shift in global economy.
A major shift in the global financial landscape. Japan has lost its decades-long status as the world's top creditor. A recent Bloomberg report reveals that Germany has now taken the lead. The change comes as a result of a weakening yen, a strengthening euro and ongoing trade tensions, particularly those tied to American tariffs, first introduced under the Trump administration. In 2024, Germany's current account surplus hit 248.7 billion euros, while Japan's reached 180 billion euros, or about 29.4 trillion yen. Germany's climb is credited to its robust trade performance, with an appreciating euro boosting its net foreign assets. Meanwhile, Japanese companies have continued expanding overseas, investing heavily in the United States and the United Kingdom. The finance, insurance and retail sector have led the way. So what is a creditor country? It's a nation that holds more foreign assets than it owes abroad, through investments, loans and savings. Experts also say that US tariffs have played a part, prompting Japanese companies to shift operations to avoid trade restrictions. At the same time, the euro is gaining ground as a stable and reliable reserve currency, chipping away at a long-standing confidence in the US dollar and treasury bonds. But Japan's finance minister, Katsunobu Kato, insists the ranking shift does not mark a dramatic change in the country's global position. He says, Japan's net external assets have been steadily increasing. The ranking alone should not be seen as a sign of decline. Meanwhile, China is fast closing in. With rapid international expansion, it's gaining ground on both Germany and Japan. A reshaping of the world's top creditors is underway, one that reflects shifting currencies, evolving trade routes, and new power players in the global economy.
Alashankou port has recorded more than 3,000 China-Europe freight train journeys in the first 5 months of 2024, solidifying its position as a vital Euro-Asian trade link. The port supports 123 international routes, including Germany and Poland.
In just the first 5 months of 2024, there were more than 3,000 China-Europe freight trains that passed through Alashankou port in northwest China's Xinjiang region. That's according to new figures from railway authorities. The port connects China with Central Asia and Europe and currently supports 123 international rail routes to 21 countries, including Germany and Poland. These trains carry more than 200 types of goods, ranging from electric vehicles and electronics to daily necessities and industrial parts. Together with the nearby Horgos port, Xinjiang now accounts for more than half of China's total China-Europe rail traffic. So far this year, the region has seen 16,400 train trips, a 14% rise compared to last year. Alashankou's role in cross-border trade is expected to keep growing as China continues to expand its Belt and Road Rail network across Eurasia.
China has launched a bold new space mission. They are aiming to bring back rocks from a distant asteroid for the first time.
In the early hours of Thursday, China successfully launched its Tianwen-2 spacecraft aboard a Long March 3B rocket from the Xichang Satellite Launch Center. The robotic probe is heading for asteroid 469219 Kamoa-Lewa, located about 10 million miles from Earth. The mission marks China's first attempt to collect asteroid samples. Tianwen-2 is expected to reach the asteroid in July 2026, gather rock material and send it back to Earth in a capsule scheduled to land in November 2027. If all goes to plan, China will become the third country, after the US and Japan, to retrieve asteroid samples. The launch adds to a growing list of achievements in China's fast-expanding space program, including lunar missions, a national space station, and plans to send astronauts to the moon by 2030.
The Economic Cooperation Organization is taking significant steps toward boosting regional trade and transit. On Wednesday, the 10th meeting of customs chiefs from ECO member states concluded in Tehran. They discussed strengthening regional cooperation and streamlining cross-border procedures.
Tehran was the host city for the 10th high-level meeting of customs chiefs from the Economic Cooperation Organization on Wednesday. The one-day event signaled growing momentum for economic integration across the region. The in-person attendees included customs authorities from Iran, Turkey, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Azerbaijan and Pakistan. Their counterparts from Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan joined virtually, reflecting the hybrid nature of modern diplomacy. Held under the banner of strengthening regional connectivity, the meeting zeroed in on facilitating smoother customs processes and enhancing the efficiency of transit corridors linking ECO member states. Among the key partners present was the International Road Transport Union, underscoring the importance of road trade and global standards in trade facilitation. The eco-region bridging South Asia, Central Asia and the Middle East holds vast potential as a trade and transit hub. But challenges such as customs delays, inconsistent regulations and outdated infrastructure continue to impede progress. These meetings sought to address these bottlenecks through practical cooperation. Participants discussed initiatives to digitize customs services, boost coordination in anti-smuggling efforts, and align with international best practices. The meeting also reviewed progress on implementing earlier agreements, such as the Eco-Transit Framework Agreement and the Regional Customs Data Exchange Protocol.
A new intelligence report out of the U.S. suggests that Moscow is trying to bring Georgia back into its sphere of influence. The report also touches upon Georgia's Russian-occupied territories. Our correspondent, Villi, has more from Tbilisi.
The U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, one of the most trusted branches of American defense analysis, has released its annual global threat assessment, and Georgia is firmly on its radar. According to the report, Moscow is almost certainly seeking to bring back Georgia to the sphere of its influence. It notes that following Georgia's October parliamentary elections, the ruling Georgian Dream Party has shaped an environment that allows for deeper involvement from Russia in the country. The report also addressed Armenia, citing worsening ties with Moscow and efforts by Russia to discredit Yerevan's pro-Western leadership. This broader picture of Russian influence extends directly to Georgia's occupied territories. In Abkhazia, the de facto leadership continues to closely align with Moscow. Speaking to the Russian state media at Caucasian Investment Forum in Russia, Abkhazia's de facto president, Badr Gunba, praised Russian military forces' presence in the region, calling them essential for peace and stability. He highlighted cooperation with Russia's defense ministry and the significance of both the 7th military base and Russia's Federal Security Service border unit stationed in the region. Around the same time, Russia's defense minister, Andrei Belousov, met with Abkhazia's de facto defense chief, describing Abkhazia as a reliable ally and underlining its efforts to create a joint defense space in the framework of their strategic partnership. The statements reflect ongoing shifts of regional cooperation as Moscow strengthens its ties with breakaway entities while distancing itself from Armenia's pro-Western leadership. It's Nini Nicolaishvili reporting from Tbilisi, AnewZ.
To unpack the latest developments in Georgia and the recent intelligence assessment report, we're joined by Miriam Villi, a strategic communications and security sector reform expert. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, James. It's a pleasure to join you today.
Now, can we delve deeper into the details of the report? What are the main areas where Russia is interfering?
First of all, it's very important to note that this threat assessment is looking into multiple areas and multiple fronts, having the whole paragraph dedicated to Russia's destabilization effort in South Caucasus, while dwelling on the Georgian Dream regime. It's a very significant acknowledgement. So the threat is real, and Georgian Dream government enabling Russian influence in the country and in the broader region of South Caucasus. It's a very serious acknowledgement, as I said. So this has been a gradual process, and it started with the Georgian Dream coming into power, but it intensified, and as many our Western partners say, the masks went off since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. For now, we see basically the full state capture by Russian operatives and Russian agents in Georgia that are basically in majority of ministries, law enforcement, security services of Georgia. We hear a lot of reports from the defectors and those officials, high-level officials that have left their service in Georgian security services, and some of them were forced to leave the country, that more and more Russian operatives are embedded within our law enforcement and security service system, which certainly poses a great threat to democratic processes in Georgia, to Georgia's choice in our Euro-Atlantic aspiration.
Thank you very much for sharing your insights, Miriam. An exchange has erupted between Kabul and Moscow after the Russian defense minister accused Afghanistan of remaining a source of terrorist threats to Central Asia. Kabul has strongly rejected the claim, saying the narrative is outdated and rooted in the US occupation era. Tamim Bahis has more from Kabul.
As the Afghan delegation attends the Moscow Security Forum for the first time, tensions have emerged following remarks by the Russian defense minister at a parallel meeting of the CSTO Council of Defense Ministers in Bishkek. The Russian defense minister claimed that Afghanistan remains a source of terrorist threats to Central Asia, citing concerns over cross-border extremism and migration. He described the broader military-political situation in CSTO regions as tense, pointing to ongoing Western pressure on Russia and its allies. The Afghan government has strongly rejected the Russian assessment. The deputy spokesperson of the interim administration dismissed the claims as remnants of a narrative created during the US occupation, arguing that no terrorist group are operating within Afghan territory today. According to Afghan officials, the current leadership has taken steps to prevent any group from using Afghan soil to threaten neighboring countries, insisting that security has improved since their return to power in 2021. The dispute highlights the growing uncertainty over Afghanistan's role in regional security, while Moscow continues to voice concerns about instability spilling into CSTO states like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. Kabul maintains that those fears are unfounded. This is Tamim Bahiz in Kabul for AnewZ.
An international military exercise has launched in central Turkey. Forces from 15 countries came together to test airborne operations and assess combat readiness.
The sky over Kayseri lit up with parachutes as Turkish commandos performed a nighttime jump, marking the start of the Distinguished Observer Day of the AnewZ 2025 exercise, held at the Martyr Lieutenant Hasanbak Drop and Jump area near Incesu. The exercise is spearheaded by the 1st Commando Brigade Command, a veteran unit known for its airborne capabilities, first showcased during the Cyprus peace operation and repeatedly tested in counter-terrorism operations. According to the scenario, parachute commandos leaped from a C-130 transport aircraft departing from the 12th Air Transportation Main Base Command. Their mission to conduct an airborne guidance operation and secure the area in preparation for a large drop of 265 parachute commandos set to take place on Wednesday. The AnewZ 2025 exercise brings together not only Turkish forces, but also representatives from 15 countries, including Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Bangladesh, the UAE, Brazil, Georgia, Spain, Italy, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan. Both active participants and observers, these nations are contributing to the development of joint operational capabilities and interoperability. The aim is clear: to strengthen combined operations with friendly and allied nations, while testing and enhancing the airborne capabilities of Turkey's elite units. The exercise also measures combat readiness across all command levels, offering critical real-time experience in the planning and execution of operations under battlefield conditions.
In Bukhara, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijani media delegation journeyed through history, culture and craftsmanship, from ancient palaces to vibrant bazaars and timeless traditions kept alive by generations. Our Ali Aziz has more.
Today in Bukhara, our Azerbaijani media delegation had the exciting opportunity to dive deeper into the city's rich history, from exploring ancient landmarks to experiencing the vibrant atmosphere of the local market. We visited the Zardos Arts Center, owned by a goldsmith family, where traditional Uzbek clothing and Bukhara's centuries-old gold craft are preserved by artist Mahfuza Salimova, who devoted her life to preserving the tradition for over 4 decades. Next, we visited the bustling Bukhara Center Bazaar, where you can find everything from fresh vegetables and fruits to fragrant spices and dried nuts. Most notably, the traditional Uzbek naan bread stands out with its rich texture and cultural significance. Now going into the historical point, we explored the Setorai Mohi Khosa, known as the Palace Like the Stars and the Moon. named in honor of the emir's beloved wife, Sitora, whose beauty he likened to the moon. It was constructed during the last emir of Bukhara, Mir Said Mohammed Alim Khan. If there's one thing this official media press tour through Uzbekistan proved, it's that connecting the two Turkic nations, gaining insight into Uzbekistan's media, and uncovering the country's rich history made a truly remarkable experience. This is Aliya Aziz, reporting from Tashkent, Uzbekistan, for AnewZ.
A special edition of NewsHour is coming up tonight with a different focus. Our guy Sean will tell us what we can expect.
That's right, something a bit different tonight on NewsHour. Azerbaijan's health minister, Teymur Musayev, joins us for an exclusive interview to talk about an exciting new partnership between Azerbaijan and China, something that's planning to benefit not just the health outcomes of people in this country, but also right across the region. That's Teymur Musayev joining us for an exclusive interview on our special edition of NewsHour tonight.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to AnewZ.